So we're here with SwingNation, Dan and Lacy, and we're not golfing today. Hey guys, John and Jackie of OpenLove101.com, and we are here today with Lacy and Dan of SwingNation. They're the most amazing podcasters in the universe. Oh. We're so fortunate to have you guys here with us today. And they stayed at our house last night.
We did.
We had an amazing time, lots of talking.
Yeah, talking.
How you guys doing?
Good. Happy to be here.
And you are here in Houston. Why?
We were here for Splash Houston. So we actually attend all the Splash events. And I usually host the pool parties, and we go and we have a good time.
Yeah, I watched one of your pool parties that you hosted where Tess of Naughty Nolans had a big banana between her legs, and you were doing a ring toss.
We did do that.
Yeah. You ended up bumping the banana quite a bit.
I did. I kept hitting my head on the banana, which was slightly awkward, but it was Tess, so it was okay.
It's okay, yeah.
And then the other thing we're talking about today, one of the things we're talking about is today is International Panties Day. I don't know if you heard that early on in our blooper roll or B-roll stuff, but it is International Panty or underwear?
It says underwear.
Same difference.
Yeah.
But panties are underwear, so
They are.
either way,
Panties are,
thank
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't wear underwear. Or panties.
I don't have any on.
I have underwear on.
And you?
Yeah.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
2 out of 4.
Dan and
It's
I are
not
on the
bad.
same page.
Yeah. Celebrating Underwear Day.
I am celebrating Underwear Day.
So let's start off by maybe you guys telling us a little bit about how you met. Because I think you were a unicorn and I heard you were a bull, which I've never met a bull in person.
Oh, wow.
So we had a podcast so long ago where we talked about
Definitions.
terms and swingers use, and that's one of them. And a lot of people don't know what that means. So let's start with that.
Okay, yeah. So I was what you would consider a bull, which generally speaking is just a single male in the lifestyle that engages with couples. Now, there are other, and we actually were talking about this a little bit last night, there's other terms out there that some people use. So some people will say a bull is somebody that's in the lifestyle that might be, there's some implications that they're a little maybe more dominant, maybe they might be well hung or something like that. There's some kind of idea as if you bring a bull in to play with a couple, that he's going to kind of come in and service the wife and rock her world, so to speak. So there are other terms out there. We've heard the term now bluefish, which is again another single male that will engage with couples, but isn't a bull. So he's just a normal guy. He's not, maybe doesn't have that like dominant kind of personality. And then we've heard the term dragon, which was kind of new to us. But from what I've told, that's a bisexual male. So a male that will come in and play with couples, but he's bisexual. So obviously he'd be playing with both partners. But I don't even know. I think people told me I was a bull. I don't think I really identified that way.
I didn't know I was a unicorn. I was just told that. I just thought I just wanted to hook up with couples. And then someone told me what a unicorn was.
So you guys were both doing this individually.
Yeah, we actually met on SLS. So
I messaged him. He was in town working, but I didn't know at the time. And I had never seen him. And I didn't typically message guys because I was a single female. I had a lot of messages. So I kind of could just go through and find. But I saw him and I thought he was cute. And so I messaged him and I was like, how are we the same age? And we live in the same city. And we don't know each other.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then we started chatting and we hit it off. I ended up going to his hotel room because he was working, which is very scary. I don't know why I did that, but I did that alone. I did it, and we ended up not even hooking up the first time. We just talked and had fun, and but I came back the next night and we did.
You got to tell the full story of why we didn't hook up the first time.
Well, because when he asked me to come to his hotel room, I was like, I can come, but I just want to let you know I have plans with a couple earlier that night. So I've already have had sex with someone. So I just wanted to let you know that. So I thought I was like being like respectful telling him that. And he had done the same thing. So
it's okay because I have plans with a couple this afternoon too. So sounds like we'll both be busy about the same time. But if you want to come over later in the night, that would be fine. Yeah.
So I did.
I actually told her like we're not gonna have sex because I already have done that. So if we're gonna do it, I want to give you the full experience.
Full effect, yeah.
And she tried really hard. And she got close to getting me to do it.
No, so of course I had to come back the next night.
Yeah.
I wanted to do it.
Real?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, like you couldn't get it up? Or?
Oh, no.
He just told me no, and so he was sticking to
I wasn't
it.
going to go back on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that.
And it made me want him more.
Yeah, exactly.
It worked. I came back.
Yeah,
So,
forced you to talk.
Yeah, I did.
Get to know each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when she messaged me on SLS, I was very hesitant. I'm like, this is not real. Like, this is, I've been in lifestyle for, I don't know, a year or so at this point in time. And I'm like, single females that are attractive and look like her don't message you on lifestyle dating apps. Like, that's just not something that ever happens. So I'm like, this has got to be a dude trying to catfish me and like just get pictures or something like that. But then she talked more, and then like I think we got on Kick at the time. That was what everybody was using. And she sent me a few pictures, and then she sent me on that app. You can send like a live picture, and I'm like, this might be a real girl. Like, this might be real. Like, this seems real to me. And then she showed up in my hotel room, and I was like, yeah, this is real. This is a real thing. Yeah.
So it was supposed to be just like a week of like fun. He lived 500 miles away. We were just going to like hook up for the week, and then he was going to leave. And he did visit my area often. So we were like, maybe it'll happen again. We didn't know. But we became friends. We would talk, and it was nice to talk to someone else about non-monogamy, and we could I could tell him about my experiences. So if I was going to be with a couple, I could like come back and be like, oh my God, guess what I did? Or we kind of like were able to tell our deepest, darkest secrets without being like judged. And what ended up happening is we ended up falling for each other. So then we had to figure out, okay, how do we make this work? We're 500 miles apart. We're both in the lifestyle. We both like to have a lot of sex. Like, how does this work? And we somehow figured it out. I don't know how, but we did. And now here we are. We're
lots
married.
of ups and downs. There was
Lots of up and downs, yeah.
Well, how long have you been married now?
4 years.
And how long have you been together?
8 years.
8 years. Wow, that's great.
And what changes do you see being a married couple as opposed to when you were a bull and a unicorn? Or are there?
We just had to, I had never been a swinger with like emotions. So before I would just come in, meet a couple, and then I left and they had to deal with like making sure their partner was okay. I didn't have to deal with that. I just got to go home, which is wonderful on one hand, but on the other, sometimes I felt lonely.
Yeah.
Because not that I really wanted to be in a relationship, but it would have been nice to have someone to be like, oh, what did you think about that? And I didn't really have that. So I would be the one driving away alone. So it was just kind of figuring out how to swing with emotions, which I didn't think would be hard because I was participating and stuff like that, but it was just different. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, it took us a while to kind of figure, because when we first came together, we were like, oh, we're both swingers. We're already fucking other people. We live 500 miles apart. Like, okay, when we're not together, you do your thing, I'll do my thing. Right. And then when we're together, we'll do things together.
We thought it'd be easy.
Yeah, that didn't
it wasn't.
work. Like,
it wasn't easy.
because we're falling in love, but then we were still like, we weren't, we were kind of dating, but not really dating. And so like, there was all those emotions and like, oh, do you like her more than you like me? Or are you going to break up with me to go be with this guy that you're fucking every weekend? So there was a lot of that. We just didn't
know what to do with those emotions.
Right.
We had never been in this situation. We didn't know how to process them. And so we talked about this. We were all on the panel at Splash Houston this past weekend. And we talked about it. We almost had to reset. We had to like kind of start from scratch. We had to come up with boundaries. We had to figure out what we were okay with, what we weren't okay, and then almost start over. Because we knew if we didn't do that, we were going to break up. It just wasn't going to work the way that we were doing it. So we were like, okay, let's give this like a fair shot. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, okay, well, we at least tried and somehow it worked.
Do you think that where you had the feelings of jealousy and so forth, that was like when he would go on a date with a single person, or were you just dating couples and vice versa?
Both.
We were doing both at the time.
Yeah, okay.
I just think I was falling in love with him. And it's hard to fall in love with someone and then go, like, it wasn't like we had been married for 20 years and we had all this trust and all these things established. We didn't have any of that. Right. There was nothing there. There was no foundation to kind of build on. So it was just hard to figure out those emotions. Like, I knew you can have sex without emotion. I knew we could go and be with this couple and come back to me and be fine, but it was almost like my mind didn't understand it. Like, I had to like figure out, or I don't know. It's very hard for me to explain it.
Yeah.
I think it's true. Like some of that, we didn't have the, because honestly, now we would probably, if we did something like, we don't play separately, we only usually play together, but I think we would be better at it now than we were then
totally
because
would.
we have that base foundation of, I know you love me. I know I trust you. We've been, we have this family and this life together now that it's important to us and that we wouldn't just want to walk away from. So we're just a lot more invested in each other now than we were when we had just started dating, early on.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that, where it wasn't like you became monogamous, but you really centered on just the two of you and getting those boundaries and that, like, what does our relationship look like, and getting that platform set, and then going back to what you were doing.
That's basically what we did. We just took a little time, worked on us, figured out what we liked and what we were okay with, and figured out our schedule so we could be together more. And once we kind of worked through all that, I think it just became a little bit easier. We started to meet couples and swing together. And so I think it just kind of evolved into something probably a lot more healthy. Would you say?
Did you decide not, because now you just play together.
Now we do, yeah.
Did you decide before you were married you weren't going to play separately anymore?
But I think it was organically. We never really said, okay, you're not going to go have sex. Because we actually did. There was a few people that we both had prior
friends with benefits.
Yeah, friends. So we made sure we didn't just cut those people off. We made sure to we handled that respectfully. But I don't. It just naturally we found that we would just want to do stuff together, and we would wait. Would you say that?
Yeah, I don't even really.
I don't
know if we ever
ever
decided to only do.
It just happened.
It just kind of happened. Yeah,
it just naturally happened.
But for us, that's what I enjoy about the lifestyle is seeing her and the compersion aspect of it. That's one of my favorite parts. So. There's not a lot of interest in separate play. Now there has been recently times when maybe like Splash, for example, I was there a day and a half before she was.
Yeah.
And there was some talk about, well, if it happens, maybe I'd be okay with certain people that we know and trust. So I don't think we're even against it now. Yeah. It's just we're maybe more cautious and selective of who we would do that with. That people that we have that trust with,
I have a lot of questions that I want to ask, but there's this one that I keeps coming back to me. So I think with you, Dan, most people in the audience would not be surprised that you were this single man, that you were in the lifestyle, or that you were having a lot of sex, because we talk about that so often with men's sex drive but with women, we don't tend to talk about that.
She was a bigger slut than I was.
And that's kind of the thing that I want to get into, because we don't talk about that. And you were so casually we both really like to have a lot of sex when you were talking. And so can you touch on that, and how can women kind of come up and own that?
Well, I wasn't always that way. I was married in my early 20s. We were married for 6 years, and I was never a super sexual person in that marriage. I just did what everyone told you to do. You get married and you have sex once a week or once every 2 weeks, and that I just did that because I thought that's what you do.
That was the platform.
Yeah, that's what you do. And then that marriage ended, and I did have a couple of long-term relationships, and they were very vanilla. They were not anything crazy. And I do remember my last long-term relationship. I was interested in girls, and that's kind of what brought me to the lifestyle. I wasn't I wouldn't say I was bisexual. I just was interested in exploring that side, and that's kind of what got me into looking at the lifestyle. But then I loved the idea that I could have good sex, and I started to kind of embracing my sex life, and I enjoyed it. And I think that I like the fact that I could have a lot of sex, and I could benefit from that, but not have a partner. I was okay with being by myself at that point. I felt like I had done the house, the white picket fence, the dog, and it just kept not working. So I was like, let's try something else. And then I just kind of leaned into my sexuality and really enjoyed it. I'm not even now, I've been with plenty of girls, and I'm not the most bisexual woman out there. Probably more selective, but I don't know. It just kind of gave me the okay to be sexual, and now I'm not afraid to say that anymore.
So the bisexual, or the
all of it.
Okay, because that was going to be my next question. This kind of I found out it was okay to have good sex. But it's well, what does that look like?
Mainly men. I'm definitely if I had to choose between a man and a woman, I'm gonna always choose the man, but I enjoy females. And I think that's kind of what was my draw to the lifestyle originally.
And so what do you think was that tipping point where you were like, oh, it's gone from like this responsibility that I have within a relationship to something that I can actually like gain personal satisfaction from this, or I can be in touch with my sexuality? Because I think so often that gets missed with women. And it's like this chore or this task instead of like a vacation from whatever's going on in the world. Or, you know, like you get to walk away with just like, that felt so good.
Yeah, and that's like kind of how I said earlier about I had never been in lifestyle with emotions. It was something so refreshing to go and engage with a couple and then get to get in my car and drive away and not have to deal with that. Like I could just come in and I could be like the shiny new object and the prize sort of and like almost be worshipped in a way, and like really could just embrace that. I was able to like enhance the couple's experience but also get a lot from it. And then the next day I got to just go home and I didn't have to deal with all the baggage that came with it, and I got to just be sexual and free and wanted, and I genuinely enjoyed that feeling.
Yeah.
And then I could find someone else, you know, and then, or I could go back to that couple. There did become a time prior to meeting Dan that it was getting to the point where I was wanting some of those emotions, not necessarily with those couples, but I caught myself the next day being lonely, you know, because they had each other. They could talk about the experience. So both sides of it, you know, I experienced, I think.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you would have that feeling of like after time gone leaving and then feeling lonely. I went through some of that too when I was single. I was really not trying at all to get into a relationship. I just had a handful of women that I was dating. But there were times I'm like, I really just wish I had someone here to just wake up with in the morning.
Yeah, same. Yeah, or like I would hear people going to clubs or parties and they always had like someone to go with. And like sometimes I wished I had someone to go with. And sometimes I would connect with a single male and go, but then they wanted to like make me theirs. You know, like they wanted to like claim me. And I didn't really want that either. Like I wanted to pick the person. I don't know. And I felt like I was kind of settling going with like a random person.
Yeah, people can get possessive pretty quickly.
Yes, very quickly. Yeah, very quickly. I found that with being a unicorn. Once I found a good quality couple, they wanted to like latch on and keep me around.
You are a girlfriend now.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
And did you have a similar experience, Dan? Or
So I think I was similar in a way that I was in a monogamous relationship for 13 years. And once I got out of that relationship, I'd kind of given up on monogamy. Like same thing like Lacy is saying, is like I tried to do the white picket fence and the kids and the dog and it just didn't work. And I think I blame myself for a lot of that because I wasn't super good at monogamy. But then, you know, I went from the white picket fence with the wife and the dog and the kids to like, I'm in an empty house now, you know what I mean? And I only see my kids on the weekends. And so I think there was I wanted to fill that void in that space. And so, but also didn't want to commit to somebody and go down that road and get hurt again. So in some ways the lifestyle kind of filled that, like I can go out with people and I can have fun and I can have sex. But then I know that there was no expectation of me to call and text and keep that relationship going. So, it was a lot of fun for me in that way. But yeah, I think the same thing like Lacy, that there were some times when, you know, on a Wednesday night, you're home alone and like just watching TV and you're like, what am I doing with my life? You know, kind of, so to speak. So, but I was really, you know, when me and Lacy started dating, you know, she started kind of like, oh, well, I think we could date and I think we could be in a relationship.
I definitely pursued him.
And I was like, there's no way. Like we live 500 miles apart. Like you have a kid in your city. I have my kids here. Like
what is that even going to look like?
There's no, like, and I was pretty much straight up like, I'm going to end up cheating on you and her and breaking your heart and it's not going to work. So don't do it. We're not doing this. And
I didn't take no for an answer. I was like, we're going to make it work.
Really?
We're going to figure it out. Yeah.
Wow.
I just knew there was something about him and I can't put my finger on it. It was something that I could feel. And I was like, no, we're going to do this. We're going to make it, which is kind of crazy. But like, I definitely have pursued him. I just had this like gut feeling that this was meant to be. And we actually got married still living long distance. And we lived separate for the first year or so of our marriage because he was active duty military.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
That's
did the
us.
same.
We did the same thing.
Yeah. Because I wasn't willing to move because I had a child in school and
Yeah.
I knew we only had a few years left in the military. And I was like, I'm not uprooting him and moving him when I know you're almost done. So we're just going to make it work.
Okay, so then here's the thing, because I think John and I would agree with this. So you did the white picket fence and the traditional marriage, and there was something there that wasn't working. But in this relationship, where it's much more open, it does. Why do you think that is?
Well, I've never had a relationship where I can communicate and tell them every single thing I'm thinking. I think in every other relationship I was in, I've always felt like I hid a piece, and not really on purpose. It was never, I never was made. I don't know why. I just did. And I think because we started out as friends and we really had no interest in being in, like, I never would have thought we would have got married. I was just always very open. I told him all the weird stuff I was into, and I don't know, I just felt super comfortable with him. And so I've never felt like I needed to hide anything. And I don't think you even realize it when you're doing it. So it's just so refreshing to know that I can just like be my true, authentic self, and he's going to love me no matter what.
Yeah, it's similar for me. I think I was always kind of a sexual being. I think I liked pushing limits and boundaries and exploring fantasies. And in previous relationships, and I'm not even blaming my partner that I had at the time, but they were also taught that you just don't do that. That's not okay. Right. It's wrong. And so at one point in time, I'm like, there's something wrong with me. I should be happy right now. Yes. I have a wife, I have these beautiful children, I have a good job, we have a nice house, a nice car. Like, why am I texting? Why am I texting girls on the side? You know what I mean? So why am I doing? Like, what is wrong with me? And I couldn't not do that. You know what I mean? And for whatever reason. And I'm sure there's people that are like, well, yeah, because you're cheating asshole. You know what I mean? And they're entitled to their opinion, but it wasn't that I didn't love my wife. It wasn't that I wasn't happy in that relationship. I was just always seeking I wanted to explore these other things. Right. And so I did it kind of unethically at the time. So like Lacy is saying, when we first started dating and talking, we told each other everything and everything, things I had never told a woman in my life. And she was like, well, that kind of sounds cool. Like, that sounds hot. And like, yeah, well, maybe we can go to Transfusions. We can try to do that. And it's like, who the hell are you? Like, nobody says that. Like, what, and I was like, kind of what we were talking about earlier, I was trying to convince her that I was not the man for her, that this is like, I am not the person, right? Because I've heard, I've hurt a couple of girls already, and I just don't want to do that. You seem like a sweet young lady. I don't want to hurt you. And she just convinced me, like, you're not going to, like, I like this. This is what, I'm into this. It's okay. Like, we can do this together. Yeah, trust me. We can figure out a schedule that works. We can, we can make this work. And it took, it took months of those conversations. And at the time, I lived about an hour away from work. So in the mornings, I'd get in my car and I'd start driving to work, and I would call her. And we would just talk for an hour about everything underneath the sun. And then on the way home from work, I would call her. And sometimes it was, oh, who'd you fuck today? And how was that? And it was a good dick. Like, did you like it? Did you come? Did you squirt? And then sometimes
all that stuff.
Sometimes it would be about dogs or, who knows what. But we talked about all the things, and just slowly over time. And she was like, well, I've talked to my ex-husband, and we're going to, I'm going to do week on, week off with my son. And so that'll give me a week. And she worked remote at the time on her job. And she's like, I can work right from home, so I could come and like spend some time with you. And it took some time and some chipping away, but eventually I was like, all right, like, come. We'll do a week and see what happens.
We'll just see what happens.
Yeah. And it just
broke down.
She hasn't left my side since,
Couldn't get rid of me. I just had this feeling. I don't know. I had no idea that this would be where our lives would be. I didn't know. I just felt, I think with him, for the first time in my life, I felt alive. Like, I can remember driving to him the first time, and I felt like, I don't know, like I could feel my heart beating. I could feel like butterflies. And I had never felt like that with anybody else. I dated, married, anything. And I don't know. I just couldn't let go of that. I wasn't willing.
It's the craziest thing when you talk to somebody and they tell their story and is so similar to
ours. Oh, is it really?
Yes.
So similar.
I mean,
it's
we just
crazy.
talked and talked. We became good. We told each other everything. I told her things I never told anyone in my life. Mm-hmm. She was supportive of it, vice versa. The first time our relationship started on the telephone, just talking. We hadn't met.
We were
we lived so far apart.
Mm-hmm.
And after a week of that, I was falling in love, and I mean, that quickly, I just felt like this was right. And I flew out there to see her, to see if in real it was going to work. And all the way there, like you're describing, I was excited.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, oh my God, I wonder if this is just going to be a bummer and I'm going to have to go home. And I mean, I hope not. I really want it to be real, like how I was imagining it being, and it was better than.
Yeah.
But God, it was so exciting. It still is exciting.
I can remember calling my mom, like, don't ask me any questions, but I need you to watch my dog because I'm getting in the car and I'm going to Virginia and I'm visiting this guy that you've never heard of. And she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, just don't ask any questions. I'm just doing it. I'm just doing it, you know? So, I mean, in a lot of ways it was crazy, but I just had this feeling that there was something there that I couldn't describe, and it somehow worked out.
So once you two got married and, you've started this life together, what was the catalyst that made you start talking about it openly and then doing a podcast and then, just like what was that trip like?
Well, it's actually not as good a story as I'd like it to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I was in the military. I was in the Army, and I was deployed overseas. And so we just got married, right?
Yeah, it was like 8 months after we got married.
Yeah. And so again, because we talk about everything and are very open, part of the conversation was, we know you're going to be gone for 6 months. We know we're both very sexual people. Mm-hmm. How are we going to maintain that connection, right? How are we going to work through this without one of us hurting each other? How are we going to fill those needs and those voids? And so this was right after COVID, and OnlyFans had just started to become a thing. And I was the one that was like, well, if you get on OnlyFans and just start, like, she was sending me pictures and emailing me stuff and text messaging me.
Because he was bored. So he was like trying to get me to do
all
this.
I'm trying, because I'm horny, because I haven't had sex in months. So I'm trying to get her, I'm trying to get her to do all the things, right? Send me a picture of you in your panties.
And I was like,
she's like, I'm trying to drop the kid off at school right now. Like, leave me alone.
Because we were on a 12-hour difference. So, like, I was trying to not think about sex. Because, I had a
Right.
So I'm like, okay.
That's all I'm thinking.
I'm like, I'm going to exercise. I'm going to get skinny. I'm going to organize the house. Like, I'm going to do all these things while he's gone. And he's over here, like, make yourself come in the car with the camera. And I'm like, what? No, leave me alone. And he was just like, I was like, stop. So we were like, not arguing, but like, we were frustrated a little bit with each other because we were trying to figure
different pages.
Yeah.
So I said, well, if you start an OnlyFans page, when you have free time during the day or whatever, snap a picture of you, like make a little video, you can post it on there.
Yeah.
And then when I have free time, I can get on there and I can look at it. And not only can I look at it and enjoy it myself, but if you get guys that subscribe, like, they'll comment and say things. So that's kind of
which
sexy.
You'll like.
Right, which is kind of sexy and hot too,
Like, we had no plans of making money.
Right.
We had it was not a financial thing at all. It was more of like, it's just a naughty outlet for us.
And then, and part of it's like, and if you make a little bit of money to pay for your hair and your nails, your makeup, like, good, like, thank God. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? And so she did that. And then, of course, I'm bored. Like, so I'm working, I'm in the military and I'm working long shifts, but when I'm not on shift, like, I have nothing to do. So I'm just like, so I started Googling, like, how do you make money on OnlyFans? Like, how do you get subscribers? And one of the things that had come up over and over was TikTok. And so I was like, it would be kind of cool if you made a TikTok talking about swinging. Like, that's kind of,
because we were swingers.
Right. Like, that's kind of naughty. That's kind of dirty, and like, nobody at the time was doing that on TikTok. And I'm like, maybe that'll help, because, what I'm reading here is, if you make TikToks, it'll drive people to your OnlyFans page. And she was kind of like, I don't know, that seems kind of silly. And I'm like, yeah, just try it and see what happens. So she posted a couple videos. And the third video, I think it was the third video she posted, I think she had pineapple earrings on it. And she just like, how do you know somebody's a swinger or whatever? And she flipped the pineapple on her ear upside down. And that video hit 11 million views.
Yeah.
In like a span of like 3 days.
So everybody knew.
I mean, when you get on your TikTok, all of your videos are like 4 million, 5 million, 6 million, 7. I mean, it's like,
I wish it was all of them, but we have a few.
Yeah, we do have some. But so very quickly, everybody knew that we were swingers. Yeah. And I'm alone. He's in the Middle East.
Oh, yeah.
12 hours away. And I'm like panicking because I had convinced everybody that I was this sweet Southern girl who barely has sex, who doesn't do anything. Like, no one knew. Not even my best friends knew we were swingers. So we had completely kept it under wraps. So very quickly, everybody knew. So then it became not about the OnlyFans. Like that was like a little, like that wasn't even a big deal. It was all about that we were swingers, and everybody knew my ex-husband, my mom, my dad.
So
my
they saw the TikTok videos?
People started sharing it, sending it back
So
and
what
forth.
I didn't realize about TikTok is the way I understand TikTok to work now is you post a video, right? And that video goes out geographically to people in your area.
Right.
And depending on how many people click, like, comment, then it will go out into a wider circle, into a wider circle, into a wider circle. But it shows it to people in your area first because they think that's the people that are most likely to connect. If you're making a TikTok in Oklahoma about farming, well, farmers in Oklahoma are probably going to care about that more than people in New York, right? So it kind of pushes that video out geographically. So not only did she have 11 million views, but probably 1 million of those people are people that are like geographically around us, which are her family people. And her cousins and her aunt. And
so I still live in the same hometown, even now. I still live in the same. So like I was going to Walmart or school pickup and I was devastated. I was so devastated. And he is like, yes, because
I'm like, you did it. I'm retiring. Like, you got this. Like,
And he's like all the way away. And I'm just, I was devastated. I was like, take it down. He's like, no. And I was like, take it down. And he was like, I'm not taking it down. And I was like, you're taking it down. So he ended up taking it down. But he was like, you realize this is like a once in a lifetime. Like that was it. We only, and I was like, yes, I don't want anybody to know I'm a swinger. I cannot believe everybody knows. Too late. And it was too late. But I didn't, at the time, I wasn't being logical. I wasn't being logical. I didn't care. I just wanted it to go away. And then a few weeks later, I was like, can we try again? And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, because like everyone knows now. He's like, I tried to tell you that. And I was like, I know, but like I needed some time to kind of process it and go through the emotions because like I wasn't embarrassed that I was a swinger. I loved the lifestyle. I believed in the lifestyle. I just wanted to be able to tell people. And I feel like my story was taken away from me a little. I mean, like, we did it. We posted it, but we did not know what we were getting ourselves into.
I thought it was like Facebook. You make a Facebook post.
20 people.
Sure, some people will see it, but you never expect everybody to see it.
No, we did not. We just didn't know. And we should have known. We just didn't know. We were kind of naive to the fact that what we were kind of getting ourselves into. So we ended up bringing the TikTok back and posting again, and it went viral again. So we did it again. Somehow, he was like, that'll never happen.
Yeah, we
again.
can't put that back in the box.
Yeah, but it did went viral again. And then, so it very quickly, it started out about OnlyFans, but very quickly that was just kind of like on this side,
Yeah.
We realized that people just wanted information. They just wanted to know all the things. They wanted to know about jealousy and how do we do this and have kids and how, like, all these questions.
How do you meet people? Like,
yes.
How do you find clubs? Yeah. Like all these questions. Yeah.
So
how do you handle your relationship?
Yeah. So people started asking these questions and I would try to answer them as quickly as I can. But everything on TikTok is short. It's gotten longer now, but at the time was very short, simple, quick answers. So people started asking, we're a podcast and we knew nothing about podcasts. We were like, okay, maybe we could do this. But it was a risk because he was still active duty military.
Oh, that's right.
But we were like, okay, let's just do it. And he researched and figured it out. And then we would take the questions that people would ask the most and we make a podcast episode about it. And now that's been 3 years later. And
you guys are now teachers.
Yeah. we're just a couple who are trying to figure it out too. We still struggle sometimes, So it's just kind of been a crazy whirlwind. So if we had planned this, if we had tried to do it, it would have never worked out the way that it did, but we kind of started.
It just so happened, like as her TikTok and Instagram and the podcast was starting to grow, and we started to make a little bit of income off of that. It started to be just enough to where, hey, we could almost live off of that. And so I was coming up on retirement from the military. She had ended up quitting her job, and it's like, okay, well, we could maybe do this full time. And it was scary. We weren't sure. We're like, well, maybe, but that's a big leap to do that, and we decided just to do it. And here we are 3 years later. Well, only really like 2 years later from me retiring, but and doing it full time.
It's really amazing.
What's the biggest impact that you would like to see as a result of doing this, like on the lifestyle?
Because you're passionate. Okay. He's been passionate since day one. He's had to kind of like take me along with it. And I share the passion. He's just a little bit more there than me.
Yeah, I think, and I think it comes from, I did 21 years in the Army and, basically fighting for freedom, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I've seen my friends die for that, you know what I mean? And I've been overseas and seen people with wives and kids and lay down and sacrifice their life for freedom. And then this lifestyle's, it's most of our friends are in it, like, and it's so amazing for us. So the fact that we live in this country and we say we're a free country, but you see a whole group of people that can't live their authentic life, because if they do, they're going to probably get fired. They might get their kids taken away from them. Some of them, can't even get apartments and things like that if they're somebody that's polyamorous. So you see this people and you're like, these people aren't doing anything illegal. They're consenting to it. They're all doing this of their free will. And this is a free country. Like, you cannot tell these people that they cannot do this. And they shouldn't be discriminated against if they do choose to do it and be open about it. And so I'm pretty passionate about that because I've seen people lay down their life for this freedom, and I don't feel like we're free to do what we want to do in this community and in this lifestyle. So we're pretty passionate about that. So we've gotten involved with groups like Open and groups like NCSF and Woodhull to try to, spearhead some of the advocacy work. And that's hard and it's slow moving. And but the groups are starting to do things. You're starting to see, openlove.org has passed anti-discrimination laws, I think, in 4 major cities in the U.S. now. I know Oakland, California, and Somerville, Massachusetts are 2 that I know off the top of my head, but there's 2 others I think that have passed those kind of laws. So we try to use our voice as best we can to try to push that advocacy stuff. At our events, we do fundraisers for groups like Open and NCSF. We're just trying to be kind of a positive voice, and hopefully we keep moving that dial a little bit more to where people can start to open up. And I will say, when we first started posting videos on TikTok, there was maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 other creators that were on TikTok at the time, talking about the lifestyle. And we're actually friends with most of them now because we reached out to them all and we're like, hey, we're doing this too. And let's talk about like which hashtags to use and what we can say, what we can't say.
Let's figure this out together.
Yeah. And so we made very good friends with a lot of them, and some of them now. But now we scroll TikTok every day, and almost every day when I'm scrolling through TikTok, I see a new face, and they have a pineapple and they're flipping it upside down, and they're talking about the lifestyle and how they love it and how it's important to them. And it went from 5 people to now I think there's hundreds, if not thousands, of people doing it. So I do think, people are starting to kind of, whatever, come out from behind the closet or come open it up, whatever term you want to use for that. I think it's starting to happen more and more every day, and we're seeing it more and more every day. So that means a lot to us.
And do you think that that's kind of the catalyst for this to happen, is more people being visible?
100%. I mean, I think it's hard, and I get it. If, even us, if we weren't doing this full time and I had a government job working for a defense contractor or something like that, you just wouldn't be able to do it. It would be too much risk to come out and be open. So, I think it really is important for the people that can do it, that, most of the people that are public own their own business or have their own, construction company or are somehow, their own bosses in some way, shape, or form. So I think the more people that can slowly open up and show people that what this is, I think that's the only way you're really going to affect change for the community overall.
And I hadn't really thought about it in this way, but on TikTok, on the fact that, you guys started it and then other people join in, and more, as people see more and more people coming out, it gives them the courage to come out. Yeah. So it's almost becoming viral in and of itself. So
that's true. That's true.
And I think it's also nice for people that maybe aren't interested in the lifestyle to see us and see, okay, we're not what TV portrays or what they've always been taught about swingers. We look just kind of like them, and we could be, someone that works with you or friends with you. And I think that's nice. So when they hear someone in their town is a swinger, maybe they don't look down upon them. Just kind of show a different side of the lifestyle.
Right. Well, and we have found in our experience that we have questions from people that are in traditional monogamous relationships. Because you think about it, you only have the tools that you have within the relationship you're in. And if those tools aren't working, knowing that you can ask somebody else that will have a different perspective on maybe how to look at something so that you can shift and move and create a better, closer relationship can just be so impactful for these people. And to marginalize us means that other people are missing out on the knowledge that we have in that. So I think that's...
I mean, my message to monogamous people out there is listen to us and learn how to communicate with each other. Try and push the envelope a little bit in your communication. Maybe talk a little bit about sex. And it doesn't have to be about sex with other people.
Right.
It can be about, come up with some fantasies within your with you and your spouse and do some things. And we've seen couples that are in monogamous relationships have a much better relationship because of better communication about sex and other things too. But you can, I know so many other people that are that have just like really mundane marriages and say, oh, I don't want to go back there.
Yeah, same.
What would you say one of the biggest misconceptions people have about those of us that are in more open relationships or in consensually non-monogamous relationships?
I think just from social media and the feedback that we get, I think people think that we just have sex with everyone.
Right.
Yeah, I think that they think that like I can be getting ready on TikTok to go pick up my child from the car rental line. They're like, "Do you have a hot date?" I'm like, "No, it's 3:30. It's time to go pick up my kid." Like, I'm not. No, it's Tuesday. Like, I don't do that. I think they think it's just like a revolving door, and those people are in and out, in and out. I think the STDs kind of go along with that. I think they think we're all just riddled with STDs. And to be honest with you, well, first of all, we only swing once or twice a month, and we don't add very many new partners either.
Right.
It's usually a lot of the same people that we have a good connection with and we care about.
Trust.
And we trust.
Right.
As far as STDs, as a vanilla person, I was never STD tested, not one time. But as a non-monogamous person, I'm tested every 45 days. I use protection. I was a 20-something.
I love that.
I was a 20-something-year-old girl meeting guys and never even had them wear a condom.
Right.
I was lucky.
Right.
I was genuinely lucky. I never got anything. But I can guarantee you most people that are meeting people on Tinder or traditional dating websites are probably not getting tested and probably not always wearing protection.
Right.
But yet we are basically torn apart on social media because they think we're riddled with STDs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's definitely a huge misconception.
And I love that you bring that up because, like you said, I think that's a misconception that we have out there. And trying to convince people that, no, it's actually the opposite. We're much more aware of it because we can talk about it.
Yes.
We don't have to act like we're not doing these things.
Yeah.
We can just be open
at
about
every
it.
single lifestyle convention that's out there, or hotel takeover, there's something about protecting ourselves and being aware of what we're doing and getting tested and all those things.
And it's an easier conversation. Like we have plans at the end of the month with 2 other couples. And yesterday, all the wives were on a group chat and they were like, "Hey, our last test was this day. Is that okay? Do you want us to be tested before?" Like, and we're still wearing protection. Like everyone's going to be wearing protection during this time, but everyone's just being safe. It's okay to talk about. It doesn't have to be awkward. It's just a fluid conversation.
And even if something does happen, there's still open communication, and we can still talk about it.
Correct.
So I just love that.
Yeah, I think it's one of my pet peeves over the years is the stigma that comes from. It's why it's called a sexually transmitted disease, but people don't seem to be worried about catching flu or anything else like that.
You can catch that having sex with
I
somebody.
usually come home sick from just about every because
Lacy gets UTIs all the time.
Yeah,
It's like
yes.
it's another infection.
Yeah.
It's, why these certain infections are so stereotypical and looked down upon is because most of them are treated the same way. Go get some antibiotics, should be fine. Like
more easily and readily treated.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd rather have one of those than be in bed for 2 weeks with some kind of flu or pneumonia.
I tend to kiss
I'll
a lot
take
of
gonorrhea
people.
over COVID any day.
Oh God, that's a quote
Yeah.
right there.
That's going to be the title of this
I'll let
podcast.
anybody pick this up.
But truly, it's an easier.
No, I mean,
it is easier.
Well,
Yeah.
we had a friend who tested positive. We talked about this a little yesterday. We had a friend that tested positive, and we were going international like the next week, and we were waiting on our test results, and we didn't want to leave the country and then find out that we had tested positive. So we actually were treated as a precautionary, and we left, and Dan was like, that was super easy. That was just a shot in the butt. He's like, we've been very fortunate. We've never tested positive for anything, but we've had all this amazing sex and all these amazing experiences.
Yes.
Like, if all I knew was just a little shot in the butt, I would have, like, it's nothing. This is,
Yeah.
like,
People are so afraid of it, right?
yeah. They're so afraid. Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing that I want to ask just real quick is, both of you mentioned that you have children. So how are they responding to this?
We have 14, 19, 20-year-old, so 3. The 19 and 20-year-old did not care. They really thought it was weird that Dad had social media followers, if anything. Like, they thought it was weird.
Dang.
100,000 followers on TikTok.
Yeah.
They were like,
People watch
who
you.
cares about you? Like,
Yeah.
huh?
Like, what?
They were really blown away by that part of it. They were, I think, a little embarrassed about it. Just, I think to talk about sex with teenagers is always a little bit embarrassing
Yeah.
It's a little
and
bit
stuff like
weird.
that. But now it's kind of fun. Like, we'll walk by one of those stands where they make like the pineapple drinks.
Yeah.
And my kids were like snickering, like,
Yeah.
oh, there's your pineapple, Dad. And, but in a lot of ways, it's opened them up to be able to have more uncomfortable conversations with us. Because I think my kids growing up really saw me as this conservative military guy who just was closed-minded and,
Right.
kind of, what you would think of a conservative
He's not
military
going to
guy.
understand. I
Yeah.
can't talk to him.
And so when they found out about us and, kind of what we were doing, and that like Lacy was bisexual, they started, like, my daughter was like, well, actually I'm bisexual too. And
It just opened up a lot of conversations that play like a safe place for them to talk,
Yeah.
which was nice.
And so I think it kind of painted me in probably a light that they had never seen me before. And I think they are more comfortable coming to us with some of those harder conversations than they were prior.
And mine is 14. He found out from school. Another parent told their child, and their child went to school and told people. And so if I had the biggest regret of all this, I would have sat him down and had a better conversation. He did know that we were public. He did know that we had a podcast. He knew we were on social media, but he was told that we just support alternative relationship styles. So if that's 2 girls, a guy and a girl, if it's 3 people, that we just support and love everyone. And that's the truth. That was
So
not a
more
lie.
of an abstract.
He knew it was like a sex positive.
Yes.
He knew that
platform.
but he didn't know that
like
we
how involved
yeah,
you guys
he didn't
were
know
in
that we actively engaged with other couples. So it was a hard, conversation, but we had it and we've moved forward and we've just kind of embraced it. I will say a few weeks ago, I saw this on the internet and I thought it was genius to ask your kid what their favorite thing about you is and then what their least favorite, and you do it back and forth, so it's kind of a way to learn and communicate with your kids. So I asked him, I said, what is your favorite thing about me? And he said, I love that you're just yourself and you don't care what anybody thinks. And I almost cried.
I was going to say.
I almost cried, because I was like, because part of you always wonders, are we fucking them up? Are we doing it? You just don't know. And when he said that, it hit me pretty hard. And I was like, he's seeing the bigger picture here. He's,
the importance of that.
And so it means a lot. And ultimately, our kids love us. And they probably think we're a little weird and like, oh my gosh, but I think they see what we're doing and they just love us unconditionally. And that's all that matters.
Yeah.
But I also do think that this, again, my kids are 19 and 20. Their generation is so much more open to, gender fluidness and, so I don't think being in an alternative relationship is as abstract to them as it was to us when we were their age.
Yeah. I think that's why so often when I talk to parents, they're like, oh, my kids would not understand. But it's like, you wouldn't understand because of your age. But I mean, you got to kind of give the younger generation some credit.
Yeah.
They're in a different frame
They have
of
so much
mind.
more access to information.
So much
They're
more.
much more open to.
A little more laid back about some of that stuff. I mean, sure, you're going to still have some of the stigmas, but you got to give your kids credit. You got to trust that the relationship that you have with them is going to be okay. And even if it's not, I mean, allowing them, at least they know who you are. And that'll be a lesson.
Yeah.
I love that you're who you are and that's an important thing. So
We did an interview one time where they asked that question about our kids, and I loved your response back then too. Both of us really it's important for us to be honest with our kids. What are we going to teach them? How to be dishonest?
How to
Yeah.
be dishonest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when they ask, well, we told them. And, depending on their age, how much information you give them when it comes to sex is one thing. But to try and hide who we are as people, to me, is really just hurting the kids and teaching them that they can do that with other people too. And the one thing about like all the things we've talked about today is the trust and honesty and communication we have with each other that we didn't have. I mean, you shared about how you didn't have that in your monogamous marriage. And in this relation, in our relationship and yours too, that's really the core of it, and the foundation of it is honesty.
Yeah. Yeah, I really felt like I was always holding something, kind of like Lacy said, always holding something back. When you can truly like give all of yourself and be open with all of yourself to your partner, it is a different relationship.
It feels like you're loved on a different level. They love all parts of you, your spouse. They love all the good and the bad, and you don't have to hide anything from anyone. And that's like so refreshing.
Did you find that to be challenging at all? Because I know with me, just even trusting that I could tell him like absolutely everything, I mean, just like even coming to my own truth about who I was. So was any of that kind of a challenge, or did it just
I think it just happened naturally. It was
Well, I think it was
gradual.
easier because when we did that, we weren't planning to be together. So a lot of times,
there
I was
wasn't
telling,
to
I was
lose.
almost trying to convince her that I'm not the one you want. Listen, I like this. I'm into this. I do this, and I'm trying to convince this girl like this
You
is.
don't wanna
I'm
go
not
down
the
this.
man.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh well, that's
kinda
okay.
hot.
Like that's hot and that's fun. And I'm like,
what is wrong with you?
know.
what are you talking about? Like, so I think it wasn't hard because I wasn't like I was not going
You
to somebody
weren't
that I
overthinking.
loved
He
and
wasn't
wasn't
trying to like woo me over. He wasn't
Right.
trying to show me all of his good.
Well, I was trying to
parts.
convince her I was not the guy for her. Like it was the opposite, and then she just kept being like, "That's cool, that's okay, that's fine." And I was like, "What?"
Well, it was cool.
What do you
it was
mean?
Fine,
Yeah.
like some of the stuff was hot. Some of it
know.
was like, okay, maybe not, but like good for you. Like,
Well, do tell.
yeah.
There were some times with John and I that he was like, "You really haven't done this before?" I was like, "No."
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I really, when we first got together, I thought she was not being honest with me. I'm like, there's no way. No, I promise. I'm like,
Okay.
I don't know.
I
This
was
girl's
cool.
not telling me something.
I was glad he came into my life because I was a unicorn. Because everybody just like was like, because unicorns are hard to find. Everybody was
Right.
like, over here. So I felt like I was just like a little too wild. I needed to calm myself down a little, or I was going to probably burn myself out. So I actually said, I was like, I'm glad you came because I needed to like be tamed a little. I was a little promiscuous. I was living my best life. Let's just say that.
Well,
I love that.
Yeah.
God dang it. That
Yeah.
is just so cool.
you still are.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
am very much so. But now I have a partner, and we get to do it together, and it's fun, and we get to talk about it. And
It is. It's much more
yeah,
fun.
it is.
So I don't know how many of you out there don't know about them. Probably not very many. But if you don't, tell us where they can find you. Tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, if you go to theswingnation.info, you'll find links to all our social media, the podcasts, our events, everything. Theswingnation.info.
And we've got an event coming up. I know this goes on forever and ever, but we'll put it out there anyway. In January.
25.
January 25, Dallas.
Yes, the Dallas location. So we'll be there with Dan and Lacy. So we want you guys to all come out and join us. And then what else? Oh, openlove.org. That's a great place to give money to.
That's
and,
more like political change, like really getting with government. So.
Yeah, and they definitely need your help. And Jack and I give them money. I think Dan and Lacy do as well. And if you guys are able to give a little bit of something to them, that would be great. There'll be a link below here for that. And also with National Coalition of Sexual Freedom and CSF. So Courtney will make sure those links are on there and donate some money. And then anything else you guys want to share?
I think you covered it, John.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you guys are here.
Aw, thank
I've just been
you.
dying to talk to you guys, and I just love the message that you have and how you share it and the people that you reach, because that's where that difference is. I mean, that's what's going to make change is grassroots stuff. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, and thank you for teaching Jackie how to make simple TikTok videos.
Thank you for showing me how to make simple TikTok.
You did amazing. You did amazing.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us today. See ya.
See ya.
Bye.
So did you like that video? Then be sure and click on that subscribe button below, and you'll be guaranteed great sex the rest of your life.